Hey everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Magic Towers Resort. In the last episode, we finished, let me check, Pinewood Springs, of course. So this is our very first hotel on the property. But now that we're done with the hotel, I wanted to get back to the theme park itself. And as you guys voted on the poll, we are actually going to work on a theme park area next. And well, let's actually get started with that. However, before I get started, I first want to do a special shout out to the new patron. And that is Foxtopia. Foxtopia, thank you so much for getting the gold tier, the gold pass holder tier on my Patreon. Now, when you get the Patreon, when you get one of the Patreon tiers, you get access to some exclusive trip reports, like the trip report for Trips Trail, which I went to this summer. You can check that out if you have one of the Patreon tiers, and with every tier you get something extra as well. So make sure to check that out if you're interested. You can find the link in the description. Now, if you just want to chat with other people who watch my videos and like theme parks, like backstage stuff, like dark rides and things like that, you want to check out my Discord server as well. Again, you can find the link in the description. Now, enough about all of that stuff. Let's actually get building in Rollercoaster Tycoon 2. Welcome back to Magic Towers Resort. I have to admit that that whole thing doesn't sound very natural yet with the whole Discord and Patreon thing. I'll probably have to work on actually kind of, making that a thing that I thought about before actually doing the whole thing. Oh well, back to the episode though. So yeah, we're gonna be building a new theme park area. How exciting is that? I'm pretty happy to be back in the theme park again. Just gonna get to build some rides again. That's gonna be really good because obviously in the past few episodes we worked on the hotel instead. So that's quite a bit different. Now let's actually talk about the theme for this area though, because obviously every single area in our park has a very specific theme, and well, this area is no different. So before you're gonna get to see too much of it, let's actually talk about that. Now, I obviously asked you guys what you guys wanted to see for an area, and I always kind of try and see like what are the common themes that people like, and how can I kind of combine different parts of these themes to get to something creative and something new that we can actually use for an area. Both to satisfy like the things that you guys want to see, and also to kind of, get a little bit unique and not go with some of the more generic themes that you might otherwise have. And, well, I did the same thing for this theme. And I think there were, like, two kind of themes that really stood out to me personally, I think, which I really kind of based this whole thing on. Well, first of all, medieval. So, the medieval fantasy kind of theme. Obviously, we have the towers in the center, the magic towers. So, someone was already saying, like, why don't we have more of that inside of the park? Because right now, that's only showing in the center. Maybe we can do an area about that. And, yeah, I'm like, yeah, we should actually probably do that. Kind of, reflect that same theme and build upon that just a little bit more. I really like that. But, I don't want to just go with medieval. It's just a bit too simple. Don't want to go with just fantasy. That's a bit too simple as well. So here is where I kind of try to combine some different ideas. Now, one thing that I really quite admire is some of the games by Level 5. Now, if you don't know Level 5, they have made some very stylistic games that people really quite enjoy. The titles that come to mind for me personally that I've played on the Nintendo DS and 3DS are the Professor Layton franchise and also Fantasy Life. Now, these games, Level 5 has an amazing artistic style to it. Very charming characters and things like that. And I really quite like that, and I kind of wanted to get that in my theme park as well, because one idea that I've been having for a really long time is this dark ride that's kind of based around Professor Layton. Now, Professor Layton doesn't play like in the medieval times. It's a bit later than that. So that wouldn't really fit. So I think we'll put our own twist on it. And I obviously don't want to just straight up copy some franchise into my park either. Just because of the rights, the usage rights and things like that. I want to make sure that this is actually my own. So we can kind of, take some ideas from that and build upon that and kind of take that theme of Professor Layton with the mystery kind of stuff to it, and the puzzle solving, try to get that into an area that has a more fantasy medieval kind of theme, so that we can combine these two types of things. And one thing that I really liked about Fantasy Life specifically are how you can get around with airships. And I really liked how they combined like the medieval theme with those airships as a way to get around. It's a little bit more technologically advanced, a little bit like slightly, just a very little touch of like medieval steampunk. So that's kind of what I wanted to go for. Get some airships in there. Make it look like this medieval type of place that's just a bit more fantasy-like, and that we can really, make it a bit mysterious, so you can really explore it. So some of the concept arts that I actually looked at for this place were some really cool concept arts where you can, where you're basically standing at the bottom of a hill and you look up into the city. So I kind of wanted it to have some verticality as well, just to kind of layer these different layers, just to really build up this town, so that if you're looking at it from a distance, you're like, oh damn, there's like a giant town there, right? So I kind of want to try to mimic that idea. Of course, one thing to keep in mind though is that with verticality also comes some challenges for people who may be in wheelchairs. So you have to find like a middle ground there where you get the effect that you're looking for with the verticality and looking layered and kind of going up as you get farther into the town, without actually having that verticality in the paths too much. Just to make sure that it stays accessible. I'll talk about later like how we can actually achieve that, because right now I'm actually working on something else. Because I was building this castle wall there, I realized that we're in a bit, I started building this area in a bit of an awkward position. Because I didn't really want it to go too far back, and I didn't want it to just fill up this middle plot. I wanted this to extend towards the jungle area. So to not make this area too large, I figured that I would make it pretty thin on this end. But that also gave me the perfect excuse to put a firework launch site on the property. Now, this is going to be needed for like the fireworks show and nighttime spectaculars that we have here at Magic Towers Resort. But again, this is like some good coincidence, because this castle wall will actually help protect people from, accidentally getting involved into the fireworks and things like that. So it just works as a bit of a protection wall, which allows us to put the firework launch site pretty close to the paths here, I think. But at the same time, that also means that the firework launch site doesn't have to be too far from the actual castle. And that means that we don't have to use the very large fireworks rockets that they use, for instance, at Magic Kingdom, which go really, really high. You can pretty much see them from all over Orlando. I don't quite like that. I prefer I don't prefer the fireworks at Disneyland Paris, but I prefer how the fireworks for Disneyland Paris are actually stay a lot lower. They aren't actually real fireworks. They're being shot up into the air using compressed air and things like that. It just makes it, I think it makes it a bit safer. It has a lot less noise. They go a lot less high as well, but that's actually to benefit the people that are living near the resort, basically. And I kind of like that as well, because I don't want to make too much noise here during the night times, because that's going to cause a lot of trouble with some of the people that might live nearby. Now, obviously, I made sure to fence off the entire area for the firework launch site just to make it safe for everyone. And probably, like, when you get towards the nighttime spectacular, they will probably clear this general area, like the back of the park might become closed. You can't really go there anymore. That's how Disneyland Paris actually does it, because the fireworks are actually launched from Fantasyland, like on top of the roofs of Fantasyland. That's where the fireworks site is. So you can't really have people walking around there when the show is going on. Well, at the Magic Kingdom, the firework launch site is very, very far back, all the way back on the employee parking lot, basically, all the way behind the park. So that means that while the fireworks are going off, you can still ride everything, basically, even in Fantasyland. So that's really quite interesting. Now here you can see me kind of, playing around with with some rides. Because, like I said earlier, I have this idea for a ride that kind of is kind of based on Professor Layton, because I want a very interactive kind of dark ride, where you as a team inside of your vehicle have to solve some very simple puzzles that might influence the path that you're going to take through the dark ride. So there's a bit of interactivity there, there's a bit of mystery there as to which path you're going to be able to take and what you're going to be able to explore. And I kind of wanted to try and see if we could do that in Rollercoaster Tycoon 2, kind of get that idea for this area, because that's something that's been pretty high on my bucket list, basically, to build someday, is a dark ride like that, which is an interactive dark ride that does not resolve around having to shoot everything, but instead, has something a bit more unique to it as to what the interactivity is all about. So we're actually going to be trying that, and for that I think a trackless dark ride is going to be our best option. Now, trackless dark rides can of course switch in different directions. They can go backwards, they can turn, they can drive over the same path twice if they have to, they can cross paths with other vehicles. All in all, I think that's probably the best ride system to go for this type of ride that I have in mind. However, Rollercoaster Tycoon 2 obviously doesn't have them. So instead, we'll have to use some trickery to actually get that switching to work, to get the driving backwards to work. There are a few ways you can do that. You can shoestring your ride, which is pretty complicated, especially to kind of sync it all up again. Or you can just hide the track and make it roll backwards, as long as you're using like a roller coaster type vehicle. They all come with their pros and cons, so it was kind of just trying to experiment with like what are the possibilities here and what can we actually use. I haven't quite decided yet, because we're not going to be working on this anymore in this episode, sadly. We'll work on that in one of the future episodes. But I'll think about it just a little bit more, and maybe you guys have some ideas on how we can actually tackle a trackless dark ride inside of Rollercoaster Tycoon 2. Anyways, though, I'm really excited to hear what you guys might have to say about this whole idea. So do let me know in the comments. However, with that out of the way, I'm kind of done playing around at this point with the whole trackless dark ride idea. Kind of tried everything out that I wanted to. So I'm actually going to continue working on this water side here near the Magic Towers, and that kind of finishes up the entire Magic Towers Island area. Again, here I'm kind of just reflecting the theme that you can find on the other side of the river. That's kind of something that I've been doing all around this island so far. So I wanted to make sure that we do that here as well. Place a little building there, just kind of reflect the townscape slash cityscape that we're going to be having on this other side. So yeah, that's kind of the whole idea for this area and what I kind of want to try to achieve. So at least one e-ticket attraction, which is going to be the trackless dark ride, and this city that you're going to be able to walk through, which kind of works its way up, probably to where the entrance of the ride is. And we might have to think about like a second e-ticket attraction that we can put inside of this area. Because I don't want to just have one attraction in this area. We are going to be building a flat ride in this episode. You'll see that in just a little bit. So make sure to stick around for that. And we're gonna kind of, plan out the layout for the cityscape itself as well in the meantime. So you'll see that in just a little bit. But for now, just a little building there on the corner. Just kind of reflect that same theme that we have on the other side. Getting some ruins in, just to kind of get the idea that there might have been more here in the past. But I think this first initial bit that we have here at the waterside already kind of reflects what we're going to be going for. So a lot of verticality, a lot of layers going on. And from a distance, that's going to look pretty cool, I think, because you're going to have all these different layers. It's going to be very interesting to look at. And probably very inviting as well, because I really want to give guests a sense that like, oh damn, there's a place there that we can actually explore, right? That's kind of the thing that I want to go for. And while we have all these buildings, we can of course, kind of exploit them and put some shops in there as well, and toilets. Because we're gonna still need those to keep the guests happy, pretty much. Now, in just a little bit, I almost forgot about this, but I'm actually gonna remove the t-shirt stall that is at the hotel, because it's becoming a serious problem. I put some t-shirt stalls at the hotel, which give the guest a skin-colored t-shirt, just to kind of make it look like they are in their swimwear when they actually go to the pool. However, so many guests are getting these t-shirts that at this point, I think like maybe a third of all the guests have a skin color t-shirt, and it's kind of starting to look weird. So I'm gonna be removing those t-shirt stalls. It was a cool effect at the start when people were only wearing them at the swimming pool, but it's really becoming a problem now. So yeah, we'll fix that. But before we fix that though, here's something interesting. I was talking about the flying ships. However, how are you gonna make like the large balloon that's gonna be on top of that? Now, that's something that I was kind of struggling with here in a little bit. You can use some track texture to get that to work. I saw some examples online, but those were very large ships, very large airships. That's not what I wanted to go for. I wanted to keep it a little bit smaller, kind of to fit with the scale of the entire theme park that's already established. And having like a large balloon above that just wouldn't make a lot of sense, so I had to figure out something else. So I eventually found that these two track types work together to kind of get the shape right. It's a bit small, it's only 1 tail wide, but the shape I think is really solid. So I really quite like that. And if I layer another bobsled above that, I think we kind of get the shape there that I was really going for. So I'm really happy with how that turned out. And it ended up being a lot simpler than I was expecting, because I was thinking like, oh man, we're gonna have to layer all these different kinds of tracks basically. But it really didn't end up being that bad. And then for the bottom, I just add some additional, wooden coaster track with the Virginia rails. Layered on top of that, to create the base for the airship. Now at this point though, I did have to recolor the actual platform that the ship is sitting on, because there was too little contrast, because everything is brown at this point, which is an issue, because you don't really get to see like what is what anymore, and I didn't really like that. So eventually I went with like a green/aqua tint to make the platform not mix in with the airship too much, like you can see right now. Just to make sure that there is a clear distinction between the two, because obviously there's a lot of track texture there, so it might otherwise look messy really quickly. But I think this is going to be a cool place where peeps will be able to take some pictures, because they can actually walk up to the ship, maybe they can actually board it as well, walk around it. So yeah, I think that's going to be really quite nice. Now let's actually get into our first little quick service restaurant for this area. Because right now in this little strip there isn't going to be too much going on yet. Well, like behind the jungle area, that's where we're really gonna get building up to the whole cityscape. So for now I just had to fill up this space with some interesting things just to make sure that it isn't too empty, which I think is currently kind of the case at the Arabian town between the Arabian area and the jungle area, for example. So yeah, I wanted to prevent that from happening here, that you really have this this pretty empty, quiet little area. So I think this is going to be a good way to solve that. So we're going to be building a quick service restaurant with a little courtyard next to it, where the guests can actually sit down and eat their meals. And then next to that, we're going to be placing a flat ride, just to get some motion inside of the area, get some movement in there, right? Because otherwise, I'm expecting most of these rides to be indoors, because we are going to be having a lot of buildings in here. So that flat ride is just going to help us get some movement outside of that as well. But first, let's actually get building that little courtyard, which is just going to be like the castle wall, just a bit further extended out, making the wall a lot lower here, because it no longer has this or no longer needs this protective function from the fireworks. So we can kind of bring it down, because otherwise the wall is going to be too large. It really wouldn't make sense to have it that high anymore. But yeah, for this ride we're gonna go with the top spin. So yeah, that's pretty exciting. I think it fits with the medieval theme pretty well. I mean, which park doesn't have a top spin that's called trebuchet? It's kind of cliche at this point, but yeah, it gets the job done. So yeah, it's a bit more of an exciting flat ride, a bit more exciting than I might otherwise go with. But yeah, I think thematically it works really well inside of this area. So yeah, I think we're just gonna roll with that. Has a little bit of an indoor queue as well, because it goes inside of the building, just to kind of oomph up the area just a bit more, gives it a bit more depth as well. So yeah, there is another flat ride. But now that we have the flat ride in place, it's time to actually start planning out this cityscape that kind of, you know, goes higher and higher. So at first I wanted to just make one little, you know, zigzag back and forth. But I figured that the area would need to be a bit more interesting, and you don't want to have a dead end. And I have this connection point inside of the jungle area as well that I really want to connect up to this as well. So I really had to think about how we're gonna tackle that. So here's my idea. I'm gonna have 2 major roads that's gonna lead up to the top of the city, basically. So that if you go up one of them, you will pretty much naturally walk down the other one back down again. Eventually they meet up in the same area, but that just means that there's a bit more variety. And that it feels like a bit larger as well. And then I will have some alleyways between that just to connect up some of the sections in case you're a bit more familiar with the area already and need to go to one of the shops on the other side of the street. So yeah, I think that's going to be a great way to actually, you know, feel this place, to make this place come alive without it being too large and still being manageable as to how you walk around it. So yeah, that's basically the idea. So right now I'm just gonna start here at the bottom of the jungle, just to kind of transition from that jungle into the cityscape with this building on the side and a little picnic area right next to it, because I feel like this is gonna be like a nice quiet place where you can kind of relax, you know. So I figured a nice little picnic place here would be a good call, and it would also give us a good transition from the jungle area, which is very, you know, vegetation heavy, to the cityscape, which will also have some vegetation, but mostly a bit more European kind of vegetation, so that wouldn't really fit with the jungle type of vegetation. So yeah, that's kind of how we're gonna roll with that. But with that said, we are almost at the end of the episode already, so I really hope you guys enjoyed this one. Do let me know what you think about the idea and the dark ride as well. And then hopefully I can see you guys in the next one again. Now, if you want to check out my Discord, make sure to check the link in the subscription. Same goes for the Patreon if you're interested in some extra content. And with that said, make sure to like and subscribe this video, because it really helps people to find these videos as well. You know, just so we can get more enthusiasm here. Anyways, that's about it for today. Thank you guys so much for watching again, and I hope to see you guys in the next one. Bye bye.